Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Alan Barry Labucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show, and this is my new featured show that I've been doing for a few weekends now. Every weekend, I'm doing a show which I think is like a mini, an important mining conference for investors every weekend, and I get a really exciting show for you today. I actually have a case study. I'm going to leave gold up in the background to show the beautiful chart going from the bottom left of the chart to the top right. And later on, I'll get into this chart more when I get into the chart section of the show. But I put together a case study for you to talk about just how underappreciated uh, gold stocks are and how overvalued some of these MAG 7 kind of stocks are. And I'm using Tesla and Newmont. So the reason I'm using those two companies is they recently had their quarterly reports out. And in those quarterly reports are some really exciting information, okay? So uh, and emphasizes why stocks are a prime asset to be looking at for generalist investors. So you look at Tesla. They put out their quarterly second quarter report, and in that they had free cash flow of 146 million. Okay. And this is one of the darlings of the stock market, $146 million of free cash flow. Now, I pay attention to free cash flow because to me, that's the gold standard. There's no counting gimmicks in earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. This is what you're left with at the end of the quarter as far as cash. Okay, so that's my gold standard is what things are doing relative to their free cash flow. Okay, so as I said, Tesla had their second quarter 2025 report out and 146 million in free cash flow. Now, Newmont also had a couple days out, a couple days ago. They had their quarterly report out, and it was in the second quarter, 1.7 billion in free cash flow. So that's quick math. That's like over 10 times the free cash flow that Tesla had. All right. So there's one context. Now you look at their valuations, and Tesla has a $900 billion valuation, and Newmont has a 40, let's say $44 billion valuation. I'll round up slightly. So they have a 44 billion dollar valuation. So uh, the valuation to it's about 20x the valuation difference between uh, Newmont and Tesla, but they make 1/10 or somewhere around that number. 1/10. Tesla makes 1/10 the amount of free cash flow in the second quarter of 2025. So that's in a nutshell, that's a pretty, pretty powerful argument. If you think like me that businesses are about making money on their bottom line, well, Newmont shines as a much better company than Tesla. And everybody's going to say, oh, hold on a minute. Elon Musk and robo-taxis and electric vehicles and robots of the future and all this. But at the end of the day, here's the bottom line. And the bottom line for Tesla is they're struggling to their electric vehicle business is struggling. And they are the latest hype is that, well, robot taxis, autonomous robot taxis are going to save so a taxi business now is going to save their company or at least drive the valuation. And who knows what's going to happen with the electric vehicle business. And and robots. Robots are the future. We're going to make millions and millions of robots. Okay, well, let's look out a year. And meanwhile, Newmont is producing gold at about 15, $1,600 per ounce and selling it for today $3,338 per ounce. That's a futures price. So take off some of that for the spot price, but it's like 50, $60 or something like that. So uh, basically, Newmont is making about double the money on the gold they produce, whereas Tesla is struggling to make money. All right, so let's look out. I'm going to look forward a year because investing isn't all, some of it is about what's happened in the past, but a lot of it is about what is going to happen in the future. So let's give Tesla credit for, let's say that their robo-taxi business is going to be fantastic. All right, and be help them with the struggle that they're having with their electric vehicle business. So they made 146 million in the second quarter, and let's extrapolate that out for the next year. So 4 quarters. Let's even give them 200 million per quarter. So I'm being pretty generous there. All right. So they're going to make about 800, let's say they make 800 million in free cash flow. So they're trading at 900 billion. So that means as of today, they're trading at about 10, 15, 10, 12 times free cash flow. Okay. Whereas and that's on an optimistic terms. I think that that will prove to be much less, but okay. So I'm just using this as a thought experiment or a case study. So then you look at Newmont, and let's say that gold does what it's due. Let's say it just keeps going. It just goes sideways for the rest of the year. And they keep their cost about where it is. So let's say they make 1.7 times 4, that's for almost 7 trillion, 7, oops, I got my trillions, billions, and millions mixed up. So that's about 7 billion in free cash flow. Currently, their market value is 44. So what's that? Not 6.5 times free cash flow. So if you only care about free cash flow, gold mining for Newmont is a better business than making electric vehicles. So, you know, in a big picture sense, I'm trying to emphasize how mispriced the markets are right now. Wall Street stocks and relative to their free cash flow, Newmont, or I mean, Tesla is a bit of a outlier. They're an extremely overvalued company, but there's a lot of overvalued companies on the stock market right now. For example, the S&P 500, if you use the estimates of what the year ahead is, the S&P 500 is trading at over 20 times earnings. All right. That's not free cash flow. That's earnings before interest, tax, all these accounting gimmicks. So let's just take that. And so the general market is trading at 21, 20 plus times earnings. So in a general sense, it's very overvalued. And I would say that it's a risky situation because the a lot of the CEOs of public companies are not able to give forward guidance due to economic uncertainty. And the biggest economic uncertainty right now is this whole situation with the tariffs and how that's going to affect business and so on and so forth. So I would make the case that in a general sense, the big cap stocks, the Wall Street stocks, the S&P 500, are priced for perfection, while the CEOs can't give forward guidance due to economic uncertainty, and they're selling their stock at record pace. All right. The insiders. All right. Retail are buying it, but the insiders are selling at a record pace. And so uh, and then you've got a company like a Newmont, and actually, Agnico Eagle is just as efficient of, or even more efficient of a miner. And there's a lot of good mining companies out there. I'm just using Newmont because that they had their quarter out really recently. In fact, Agnico Eagle and Alamos Gold, two of my favorite gold miners. One's a major and one's a mid-tier. They're going to have their quarterly report out this week, towards the end of the week. So next weekend show, I'm going to do this same case study comparing Tesla to Agnico Eagle and Alamos Gold. And so this just gives you an idea. I'm trying to give you an idea here of how, you know, the Wall Street folks, they look at gold mining and mining stocks as risky investments, and things like Tesla and the S&P 500 companies are not risky or much less risky. Whereas you look at the free cash flow, and Newmont is a heck of a lot better company than Tesla. And I know I'm going to get rotten tomatoes thrown at me from the Tesla bulls and the tech bulls and the stock market bulls and the Wall Street types and the and the media. Well, they would all throw rotten tomatoes at me if they heard this or watch this show. But that's the reality when it comes down to free cash flow. Right now, gold mining is one of the best businesses in any sector anywhere in the world. All right. And yet the valuations are very, very modest. And, if you're looking at a pure risk ratio, companies that are making a lot of free cash flow, and they're trading at, 6, 7 times their free cash flow. That's not a risky business at all. And it's also indicative of how underappreciated the gold mining stocks are. And so I wanted to open with that today. And now I'm going to go back a week, and I'm going to talk about what we put out. So last weekend I did that was July the 20th, yeah, so a week ago. And that's my new format is weekly shows, weekend shows to sort of highlight what's going on, what I've been doing this week, that sort of stuff. And so I put out my top picks from major gold miners. And in that report, I talked about McEwen Mining, Agnico Eagle, Newmont, Alamos Gold, Orla Mining, Borealis Mining, Sierra Madre, Amex Exploration, Arizona Metals, Blackrock Silver, Emperor Metals, Generation Mining. As you can see, there's a whole list here, and it ranges in various different categories. So my spotlight on a pick, and this was done because I'm going to be starting to bring partners on or title partners on for these shows. It will be brought to you by kind of stuff each show, and I'll do a rundown on the companies that are becoming partners of these show of the reports that I'm doing. So I just took a pick, in this case, McEwen Mining, and I talked about their why I like what they're doing so much as a junior gold miner and a copper mine developer, and the success that they're having with their exploration. And then not during the week, this week, they actually had really good exploration drill results. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. My two major gold miner picks are Agnico Eagle and Newmont. I call Agnico Eagle best in breed major gold miner. They have a low cost of production. They have very good controls on their or very good margins for what they produce. And I'm really looking forward to their earnings that I think are out Thursday of the upcoming this week ahead in a few days. I'm planning on doing a deeper dive into that, and then on the weekend show, next weekend show, I'll do this uh, Tesla to gold mining case study with Agnico Eagle, and then Newmont is I talked about them earlier. They had their quarterly report out and really good numbers. One, it was a record quarter of $1.7 billion in free cash flow. The reason is that gold had its best quarter ever for a quarter, for the average price of gold in a quarter. And yeah, really good results. And I already talked about them. So I have two mid-tier gold miners. One of those is Alamos Gold, which I call my premier mid-tier gold miner. It's like the best in breed for mid-tiers, and they are also have a low. They produce gold for under the average cost of their peers. So and they have high grades, so they make a lot of. They have a high profit margin. And they're also coming out with their quarterly report this week. So next weekend show, and during the week, I do my in the news shows on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'll be talking about Alamos and Agnico Eagle in those in the news shows. So, and then my other is Orla Mining. They're a low-cost mid-tier gold miner with a great pipeline, so they've got the ability to increase their production, bring down their costs. They're already a low-cost mid-tier. These two are vying for which is the lowest cost in the business because they're both going to be close to close. Both going to produce gold for about $300 or $400 less than their peers. Okay, so these companies, these two mid tiers are really efficient miners. All right, and I'm going to talk about all of these companies a little bit later. So my junior gold miners. Borealis, they're a brand new junior gold miner that's ramping up production. You can find my talk about them at 42 minutes in last weekend's show. Sierra Madre Gold and Silver. This is a new pick for me. They're a junior gold and silver miner with a great pipeline to increase production and reduce costs. You can find that at 52 minutes in that show. Then I've got developers, and I'm a huge fan of developers these days because the majors and the mid tiers, they're getting more attention. I still like Newmont was a case study earlier, and I talked about how undervalued even a company like Newmont is. Well, you start going down to the food chain, of the developers, and they're even more undervalued. And yet, these companies play a crucial role in the global production of gold because they are the new mines. You know, gold mining is a depleting business. You mine out 1 million ounces. Well, that's mined. You got 1 million less ounces for your mining operation. So we need a lot more high quality developers. And in this last weekend show, I talked about Amex Exploration, their high grade development project in Quebec. I hope you go back and check out these shows because I talked a lot about why I think that they've got a great mine of the future. And that's the Amex. Then I had a new pick, which is Arizona Metals. They had a recent mineral resource estimate, and it wasn't what the market was expecting. And so their stock got sold off to 52-week lows. And I came in and made them a pick because I know the difference between resource estimates. Not all resource estimates are created equal. For example, sometimes they can be completely inferred resources. So these are your least high least least quality of or confidence level of the technical aspects of it. All right. But they can be they can be quite big because you're not using really tight constraints. But when you want to do a preliminary economic assessment, now you have to have a higher confidence level in your resource estimate. And that's why they went with a fairly conservative mineral resource estimate and got hammered for it, but they're doing a preliminary economic assessment right away and also drilling to increase the resource. So the preliminary economic assessment or PEA is the reason that they did the resource the way that they did. And so that they could quickly run economic numbers on it, which is much more important to me. So I'm looking forward to their preliminary economic assessment and their drilling to increase resources. Blackrock Silver, they have a high grade silver mine. They're a high grade silver mine developer in Nevada. And they're doing a lot of exploration work to increase their resource. And I like what they're doing a lot. There's not a lot of they are the highest grade silver project in development right now across the board. There are others that have larger, but as far as the grade element goes, very good numbers in there. Emperor Metals, I've interviewed them in the past and they're official pick now. And they have a great new mineral resource gold estimate. And what makes them quite unique is that their project is in the Abitibi region near a whole bunch of mills around it that are underutilized. So they can toll mill their material, which means that they don't have to build their own mill. They don't have to build all this mining infrastructure. And so this is a very attractive asset that they have. And and I like Emperor Metals. Generation Mining has an impressive copper palladium project with the platinum kicker. The key metals are copper and palladium. I'm very bullish on copper. I'm seeing palladium has broken out with platinum. But the way I like to invest in metals is through the companies that have high quality assets in those metals. And when it comes to palladium and platinum, there's not very many of those to choose from, especially with a project in Ontario, 10 kilometers from town of Marathon. It's got a highway running through it and power lines running through it. So it has this amazing access and infrastructure story to it. And the economics of their project make a lot of sense. So it's one of my, well, it's the only company that I follow for exposure to palladium and platinum. And that's got a lot to do with the quality of their project and the difficulty in finding mining companies with those metals in their project. Meridian Mining, they've got a high-grade gold and copper development project in Brazil, and it's got great economics. It's getting bigger. It's an open pit, high grade. I really like that project a lot. And these are the times. So if you want to go to the video and look in the descriptions, you'll find those. Nuvau Minerals, they are a big landholder in the Abitibi region. They owned 1,300 square kilometers of ground. That package was put together by Glencore, and Glencore had mines on that project for many years. In fact, that Matagami region of Quebec is very well known because it's been in production of base metals for 60 years, but they never did any. The area was never really explored for gold. And recently, after this show, they put out an announcement that they have found a brand new discovery, and in their first hole, they found the orogenic gold, which is the Abitibi region is famous for these. It's one of the most prolific gold mining jurisdictions in the world, and it comes from these orogenic gold mines. And so they've drilled one hole, but what's really exciting about that is that it has a lot of visible gold in that discovery hole. The assays are pending, and I did an interview during this past week where I talked to their CEO, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. Vizsla Silver is one of the premier gold silver mine developers. Well, I would even argue that they're the most important high developer of any metal. You look at their economics of their project, and it's quite in the preliminary economic assessment. It's phenomenal. Their internal rate of return is on the base case at 85%. On the upper case, using closer to current prices, that goes over 100%. They got a low capex to build the mine of about 225 million US dollars. They already have 200 million dollars in their bank. And the project just gets better and better the more that they drill it. They've already got over, I think it's about 300 million ounces of silver and very profitable silver. In fact, if you use the the base case numbers, which with much more conservative silver and gold numbers, they pay the capex, the cost of building the mine back in 9 months worth of production. If you use current prices, that is less than about a handful of months to pay back the capex. These kind of metrics are very hard to find in a preliminary economic assessment for a developer anywhere in the world for any metal. And Vizsla Silver has a great story. So then I go on to my gold explorer with an important high grade discovery, and you'll notice that this is a category of one. Now, I have some explorers that I think will get up into this range, but they're not there yet. And Goliath is my highest conviction pick for a gold explorer with an important high grade discovery. They've been pounding away at their Sherbet discovery in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia, and have had just wonderful results. In fact, I highlighted a map, and you'll see it later, so I won't go into that. But Goliath Resources has a great story as well. So then I go into my explorers, and you can see the times, and you want. I advise you to take a look at them because they've got great projects. Canadian Gold Corp, they're a high grade gold explorer. They're hitting high grade. It's on a project that had historical production, and yeah, it's got a great story, and yeah, I covered them last week, and they're doing a lot of drilling, and they've got a lot of mining infrastructure already on their property. So Canadian Gold Corp is a kind of a hybrid of they're really focused on exploration now, but in the not too distant future, they're going to go up into that developer category because they want to bring their old mine back into production. All right. Then Dryden Gold, they're a high-grade gold explorer in Dryden, Ontario. This is not very far from Red Lake, Ontario. Dryden area has all the same geological characteristics as Red Lake, Ontario, but it doesn't have as much exploration because it was really a patchwork of projects in that area. And then Dryden Gold went in and got basically all that area. And they've been doing some drilling. They're been getting very high grades with lots of visible gold in their drill core. I think that they are going to emerge into have an important discovery, what I call my and move up into the gold explorers with an important discovery. I think what really will unlock things for them is to get deeper into the system. But it has all the geological characteristics of Red Lake in Dryden. And I think that you could see a lot of success out of Dryden area. And basically, Dryden Gold has all the key ground. So that's why I like Dryden Gold in a nutshell. Hercules Metals, they're a copper porphyry explorer. They burst onto the scene a couple years ago when they made the discovery of a copper porphyry in a region that really wasn't known for copper porphyries. But they obviously have hit one, and now they've done advanced geophysical work and advanced modeling, and their stock has broken out quite significantly even after this report. They're adding new drill rigs. They're talking about how they're hitting what they're hoping to hit, and how that's proving up their geophysical work and their modeling based on drilling and geophysics. I think that they're on the verge of having a quite an impressive news flow of the success because their drilling just got underway, and that all of their assays are pending. So stay tuned for more on Hercules. Inventus Mining, they're advancing a conglomerate gold project in Ontario. Um, One of the the most important gold mine in history was Witwatersrand in or in Africa, and that's a conglomerate gold project. And the wonderful thing about these, they're not thick on a, they're like a vein, right? But it's flat lying, like the vein is on a bottom of a lake, if you will. And an ancient lake, if you will. And so that their conglomerate comes right to surface, and they're doing a bulk sample to assess the average grade and the metallurgical not issues, because they've got very good metallurgy, very good recoveries of the gold in the system. And so they're doing that advanced kind of work on the project. And they'll also have a lot of great stuff. Kootenay Silver, they've got a great high grade silver project in Mexico. It's epithermal veins, which I know a lot about. They've been hitting great numbers. I think they've got a mine of the future. They started out by doing a maiden or mineral resource estimate, and they've got about 50 million ounces of silver. Sort of the sort of cutoff that a lot of people like to hear about is 100 million ounces of silver. And I think they're going to get to that with the drilling that they've recently completed after they did their initial resource estimate. And so they've got a lot of news coming out, lots of assay results. If you're looking for a high grade silver explorer, there aren't many making new discoveries, and Kootenay Silver is definitely one of them. Norsemont Mining is a gold explorer with a substantial resource and also the ability to mine or to explore for other resources. They're already at over 2 million ounces of gold. Some people out there on the internet are talking about, well, but it's in sulfides. Well, actually, if you do the look at their NI 43-101 report, it's actually not encased inside, and I talk about this, it's not encased inside of sulfides, it's actually attached to. And so what you do in those situations is you crush the rock, and that separates the gold and the sulfides. And they've done some studies that you can find in their technical report that they can get about 60% of that free gold attached to sulfides. So they don't need a roaster or an autoclave to heat that rock up and basically turn it into oxide. So then you leach it. They don't have that situation. So I think that Norsemont has a really exciting story. And I'm hoping I've recently done an interview with their management, and I hope to do another one in the not too distant future. Power Metallic, they're looking for a Norilsk, nickel and copper, base metal, multi-element discovery in Canada. And they've done a lot of drilling and they found a lot of that kind of stuff. So actually, I don't want to spoil the party because tomorrow I'm interviewing their CEO. And so I'm very excited about that. Power Metallic, you'll learn more about them tomorrow. Quimbaya Gold is a gold explorer beside a highly successful gold mine. So I often say the best place to look for a free cash flow machine of a mine is right beside one. And that's what they're doing. The one beside them is the Segovia mine owned by Aris Mining that has had tremendous success with their project in as their Segovia mine. And the veins that they extend from Segovia right through. And I did an interview with them. I'm going to highlight it later, but I think you should listen in on that one. Ramp Metals, they're in early days of making a high-grade gold discovery. They've got pending assay results. The market has been selling off as those assay results are pending. So I guess the market doesn't think that they're going to have a lot of great results. It's early days of a new discovery that they're only a minimal amount of holes into. And so yeah, I think this one has a great story as well. Charlie Gold, they have an excellent exploration projects for gold and silver. I actually talked about them this week on one of the shows, and I think you should check out Charlie Gold. Argenta Silver, that's a new pick. It's a high-grade silver explorer, and after this show, they actually had great results out. And so I talked about that in one of my in the news shows, and I haven't had any success getting them on for an interview. So what I'll probably do with Argenta Gold Silver is just do my own analysis, look at the project in greater detail. And so, yeah, I'm a really big fan of what Argenta Silver is doing in Argentina. And yeah, take a look at them. Almadex, talented leadership of this team. They've had huge success. They're drilling for a porphyry explore. They're exploring for a porphyry right now. Stay tuned. Almadex has a very compelling story, and they're drilling, so assays are pending. More news is pending, and they are. Just hold on for a second. I got just have to. Uh, uh, had to make a note there to my daughter. Another company that I recently, Almadex, Argenta Silver, Luca Mining is another new pick. They're a junior miner of base metals and precious metals. They've had a lot of success of late, and I think that that is setting the foundation for even more success. And I'm trying to get them on an interview. If I can't get them on an interview, I'll do a deeper dive into their projects. Northisle Copper and Gold, that's a new pick. They've got a big copper gold development project in Vancouver Island, at the northern end of Vancouver Island, and I look at them and I see the valuation relative to what they have, and it's quite a compelling story. And I really like that their key person is very good at getting out on the digital marketing airwaves to tell the story. And I think that's an important thing that I look for in companies these days. And so North Isle Copper and Gold is a really good one. Rackla Metals, they're looking for a reduced intrusion related gold system in the Northwest Territories of Canada, not very far from where Snowline has had tremendous success in the Yukon. And so that's a really exciting project. Now, I'm not really excited about the first hole because I think that they were just the angle of the hole, it kind of went along the edge of their mountain. And the one I'm really excited about is they got their second hole is going into the mountain. And I think good things could come out of that. And so Rackla Metals is another new company that I've been following. So that was last weekend's show, and I want to show you something here. Like most people that do what I do, they don't really show you the back end of what's going on their show with their shows. Like that last weekend show was viewed by 2,752 views. And it was watched for 786 hours. Okay. A lot of companies, a lot of content creators, they buy their audience. And if they do, when you get these bot farms that run up your numbers into the thousands and thousands, they only stay on that show for a few seconds and then they move on. And so it it's they're gaming the system. They don't that and that's why most content creators they don't show you what I just showed you because they don't have these hundreds and hundreds of hours of viewing time, which is why I present to my people that are ask me about my audience is because I look at this as like, could you imagine going to a mining conference and talking to 2,747 people for what was it, 700 and some hours. You really couldn't do that, but that's the beauty of digital marketing with video. All right. So then the next day, the Monday, I talked about four companies. You can actually, I advise you to go and watch this video because Goliath was the one that I started the show with, sort of as a highlight of, it was a pick that I wanted to highlight. And in the background there, you can see this wonderful map that they have. And in that map, I talk about how the distribution of the visible gold is basically, I call that a gold mountain. The visible gold is all over that, and it's very impressive. And earlier, I talked about why they're my highest conviction pick as a gold explorer with an important discovery. And therefore, yeah, I talk about it at the 1 minute mark of the Monday show. Blackrock Silver had very good news out, and I talked about that. I talked about them the day before, so I got really lucky with my timing in that they had very good results out. Argenta Silver, same thing. I talked about them on my Sunday show, and then on Monday they had excellent results out. And they had really tremendously good assay results out from their project in Argentina. The Blackrock Silver news was they had excellent assays out from their high-grade silver gold project in Nevada. And then Newfound Gold announced a spectacular preliminary economic assessment from their high-grade gold Queensway project in Nevada. So I talked about those four companies and on the Monday show, and let's see what those stats look like. I don't follow all these stats because they kind of evolve, but that was viewed 924 times for 198 hours. Good stuff on that. And let's see. Then on also the next day, I did an interview with Quimbaya. I always screw that name up, and I talked about the quality of their project in the context that it's a project in beside a cash machine of a mine. That's always a great place to look for a new mine. And they have the veins that Aris Mining Segovia mine goes through Segovia and on through like Kimbaya's project. And so I had a chance to talk to their CEO and their geologist, and it was a very enlightening conversation. And I think that this one is a real under appreciated story that is worth taking a look at because they're about to start drilling, possibly even this weekend. And if that happens after their next news release, I'm going to get them on again. Okay, so then what did we do during the week? After Kambaya on Tuesday, we had another group of companies that had news out. So I did another one of my in the news shows, and those there was only two companies in that one: Heliostar Metals and Nuvau Minerals. I talk about both of those. Or Heliostar had really great results out, and then I wanted to talk about those results. And so I had an interview. I interviewed both of these companies during the week, and Heliostar was on Thursday. Nuvo was the day before, and then they both had really good. Or actually, I'm getting my days mixed up a bit there. Sorry. I did interviews with Helio Metals and Nuvo Minerals both during the week, and So even though I only talked about a couple companies on that one, I think we got pretty good stats on that one. Let's see what those look like. It was watched 618 times for 132 hours. Only talked about two companies on that show. And okay, so then, yeah, here, okay. So then the next day, Nouveau Minerals had results out. I talked about, or sorry, they had news out the day before, and the next day I was able to get their CEO on the show to talk about that. So you can find that on my YouTube show as well. And then on Wednesday. I had another of my stocks in the news show, and that one started out with McEwen Inc. They recently changed their name from McEwen Mining to McEwen Inc. And they had great news out. They had a hole that had 36 grams of gold over 10 meters. And what's really exciting about it is, so they have underground workings on their Froome deposit that was getting close to the end of its production. And then they've been ramping over to the west of Froome, and now they're getting these fantastic grades. So it's going to actually allow them to continue the mining at the Froome area and also get after some really high grade. 36 grams of gold is a high grade number on its own, but usually you get that over a couple meters, 2 to 5 meters. This one's over 10 meters. So that was really good news. Then I went into the exploration update from Xali Gold on their big land package right beside the spectacular Las Chispas mine. Some of my viewers will remember the Las Chispas because that was the mine that that Silvercrest had that they got bought out for, and that I picked them before they even started production on that as they were going up the right side of the Lassonde curve. And so Chali is involved with a 57 square kilometer project right beside Las Chispas. And I talk about that in this one. And I also talked about a trend that was developing for Newmont prior to their quarterly report. And then the next day they came out with their quarterly report, and it was very good numbers. I talked about it earlier, actually, and the stock performed very well as well. Uh, and so I was kind of giving you a heads up of what I was expecting to see. Alrighty, so then on the 24th, had my in the news show, and this one I talked about Newmont and Orla mining. Now, at Newmont, the talk was about two things. And I had opened that discussion talking about they had three miners that were caught underground because of some rocks caving in. Now I optimistically talked about that, there was only about 30 meters of rock for them to get through and then get these guys out, and those guys were in a safe area. These underground mines have safe areas that have food and water that can last long periods of time, oxygen as well. And so I talked about that. I was hoping that it looked like they would be able to get to them quite quickly. And about, I think 12 hours after I put this report out, they in fact did get those guys out. So that was really good news. So they had two good news out. They got their guys out, and they all of the Red Chris mine, and they also had this spectacular quarterly report that had the highest record free cash flow ever for the company at $1.7 billion for a quarter. I'm not going to talk about that again because I talked about it earlier. Then on this show, I also talked about Orla mining. And it was for me a case study in how, investors will look at initial news basically the headline and they ignore the rest of the news release. Okay. So the headline was that they had a rock slide in their open pit. And that caused the stock to get hammered by about 14%. But then you look deeper in the news release and they talk about the material fall in a temporary wall falling into the pit due to abnormally high rates of rain in the state of Zacatecas. Now, I know they're accurate because I live in the state of Zacatecas and I know just how much it's been raining. We've had an unusually high summer, rainy season this year. That was, I only seen this once before about 9 years ago. So it happens from time to time here in Zacatecas, and that's what caused the issue. But because their monitoring was so good, they nobody was injured, no environmental impact, there was no equipment, everybody's safe, and they're working towards getting that. They've got like 2 million tons that's ready to be crushed and put into through the processing facility. So this isn't gonna, while they're cleaning up that, and actually that rock will be ultimately processed as well. So I thought it was a significant overreaction that was based solely on the headline. And that's why, quickly after this, I talked about this, the stock started its recovery. I think it's oversold on the news, the headline of the news, and not enough people read through the news. So that's what I did on that show for you. All righty. And then I closed the week off with an interview on Friday with Heliostar, one of my picks. I had a chance to talk to Charles Funk about everything that's going on with the company. We had a really good conversation. Uh, and it's only been out for about a day and a half. It's been watched 503 times and for 142 hours. I guess a lot of people liked it because they watched it for a lot of hours. Um, all righty. So let me go to my actual. So what I was giving you was some insights into my the back end of my Rocks and Stocks news channel. But here's the actual channel, and I've got about 5,000 subscribers, 444 videos. I'm pretty prolific at doing videos, and yeah, if you hit on videos, you'll see them chronologically, who I covered, what I covered, my weekly shows, and all that sort of good stuff. And there's been a lot of good interviews and a lot of good coverage on there, and I'm really I'm sort of reorganizing the way I do my reporting. And I'm going to be doing a lot more of these videos because basically, folks, they get a wider reach than my written reports. A lot of people like my written reports, but this is about my business is about reach, okay? And so these video reports, they get wider reach, they get watched for hundreds and hundreds of hours by people that are serious about mining investments. And so I'm doing a lot. I'm really getting my groove with my video shows. So the way I'm doing them is the weekly show is the weekend show is sort of like my where I cover a lot of companies. And then in the news shows are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I also do interviews of executives during that period, during the week as well. So lots of great coverage for you. And another thing that I'm doing, another place that I do a lot of my content is on my Substack, and there it is. So I'm going to go to my dashboard and then my site. So Substack is where I put out a lot of my content as well. So when I have a new show out, here's the latest show is Helios Star is on a path to grow from a junior gold miner to a mid-tier. And that's the interview with Charles Funk. And then all my reports, whether they're written reports or they are video reports. I put them on my Substack. All my work, all my reports are on Substack. I talk about some of the wonderful calls that I make in my stuff, and what makes me different than my peers. I don't just highlight my best picks. All my picks, all my market calls, everything is on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. Whether that's videos, written reports, interviews, everything is on there. All my talking, my headlines, everything is on there for investors to go and see and confirm what I say, which is that I if you look at my market calls, my metals calls, my economic commentary, I don't think anybody in Wall Street or anywhere actually gets it good, as right as I do, as often as I do. But don't take my word for it. Please don't take my word for it. Just go and look at the headlines over the last few years since I started Rock. I transitioned from my old report was Alan Berry Reports to Rocks and Stocks News a few years ago. I think it's almost 4 years now. And time flies. And so you can find every report that I've ever done is on Rocks and Stocks News on the Substack. So another place that I spend a lot of my time is on Twitter, or X as it's now called. And I do sort of comments on there. Like, okay, I'll give you a perfect example, actually. Let me pull up my Twitter and let me go to my profile. And so here I put comments like, this is the what I talked about earlier in the show was generated off of a tweet that I talked Tesla's Q2 free cash flow compared to Newmont's, and you can find my link to my Substack on there. My handle on Twitter is Alan B Reports, so please check me out there. And this gives you a chance to also, there's a link there to my WhatsApp group. This is something that I've started over the last 3, 4 weeks. I'm tremendously excited about this. We already have a great network in the WhatsApp group for Rocks and Stocks News. And if you're interested, the link to it is right there. All righty. So now I'm going to get into charts. Now that I had a chance to market my own work, that's and how to find me and where to find me. My big things are, as I said, YouTube, Substack, Twitter X, and a new venture is the WhatsApp group for Rocks and Stocks News, where we have a flowing and open conversations that are in a group, a private group. It's not broadcast everywhere, and I'm really enjoying that. And so let's start out with metals. And last week I talked a lot about, well, I do talk because I think it's important to notice that the gold chart goes from the bottom left to the top right. These are generally multi-year events, trends, and I think that's the case with gold. I know I've recently been noting a couple an important basing periods that we go through. So this was a 4 or 5 month base here, just above 2000. And because it was a long base, and then that it really tightened up at the end, and you'll notice how it got really close to the 50-day and basically traded on the 50-day for about 2 weeks. and then it had a tremendous breakout. Then another basing period for mid-April till early July, and then it got very tight around the 50-day moving average. Then it had another important breakout. Then it had a shorter basing period here of only a month and a half or so. And again, at the end of the basing period, it gets very tight into inflection points before it breaks out. And oftentimes it's on lower volume. And then it broke out, had a fantastic breakout, and to this high. And then it's been sort of going sideways in another basing period. But I would point out that last weekend I was pointing out how tight the uh, the range was getting, and that it was sitting right on the 50-day moving average, and I was expecting a breakout. Well, we got a nice breakout, but then we got some profit taking, and it pulled back to that 50-day moving average. This period here is telling me that we're ready for another important breakout in the price of gold. And yeah, I think that it's we're ready to see another run in the price of gold. Let's look at silver. Silver's had an important breakout really since about here, but this one is what the one that really has me excited because it was above $35. And you basically got to go back to 2021, the bull market, and even if you kind of sort of these, there's a lot of spiky range in there. It did get up to $50, but if you sort of average it out, the average was probably at about 35. So the last time before recently that it traded in the 35 was way back, over a decade ago. And so this recent action here is very bullish to me, above $36 an ounce. And we've had a really good breakout since then. And I'm really impressed with this chart. And I think silver is going to go through $40 any day now. And when it does, it'll take a run, but it won't take I don't think it's going to spike up there because spikes always end quickly and spike the other way. I think that, you look at here, it's like gold. You've seen it from early 2024, bottom left, top right. This is setting up for an extremely bullish market for silver. And the key reason that I'm so bullish on silver is it has monetary aspects like gold. And with gold, I think that basically the fiat currency and debt system is broken, and the the antidote or the cure to that broken system, at least for investors that want to protect their wealth and grow their wealth, is to own gold and gold stocks. And so silver also has some of that aspects, but what really drives silver the most is the demand for silver for solar panels. That has just been, as the price of silver or solar panels has gone down, they're being used more and more, and that demand is creating a deficit between the supply from mining and the physical demand for it to go into solar panels. And so this is creating a very bullish, a tremendous. I may never have seen such an imbalance for a metal in my 32 years in the mining business. I think silver is a coiled spring that not only is it going over 40, 50, and then it's going to set a whole series of record highs. I'm extremely bullish on silver, and but the problem with silver stocks is there's not a lot of great ones. Whether you're looking at the explorers, the developers, the mid tiers, the juniors, which is the area where I like to focus, there's not a lot of great ones. And so that tells you a couple things. That tells you that the pipeline of the future is not going to be able to fix that supply and demand deficit. Plus, if generalist investors start coming into the silver stocks, there's a very small group for them to look at, and so they've got the potential to be rocket ship breakouts. Copper's had the most important breakout in its ever. It's had a couple runs at $5 over time. Here I'm going back to a monthly chart, so it ran up from about 60 cents a pound in the 90s and early 2000s to 450. Then it had a big cup and handle and a sort of a nested cup and handle as well. But you'll notice that from 2020 until recently, it took several runs at $5 and failed until recently. And I'm going to zone in on this recent action here. And so it took a run, but this run was important. This one is sort of a spike run from, and choppy action, and it failed at the $5, a little slightly above $5. This one was more of a serious attempt at $5. It actually broke through it, and then and it wasn't, it lasted for a little bit longer. Then the tariff tantrum started. Everybody got worried and hammered the price of copper down to all the way on a spike low of 404. And then it's been charging back up ever since. And it took another run at five here, then had a massive breakout because of Trump announcing that he wants to put a 50% tariff on copper coming into the United States. I don't ultimately think that that's going to happen. I mean, it's kind of crazy for the end users are the ones who are going to pay because they're going to have to pay higher prices of copper to then build what they build with copper. And it started it, even though the reality is most people don't or probably don't think it's going to stick the tariff, but it emphasized how tight the supply chain is. And the supply chain is so tight right now that the smelters are not able to get enough material so that they can refine that and create copper that you can use. And so the supply from mining is very tight, and it's tight long term. But and yet you got all these demands coming in from cryptocurrencies, cloud computing, technology, uh, power grids that need to be upgraded in developed economies, new power grids that need to be built in emerging economies. You've got electric vehicles, and now you've also got artificial intelligence and robotics. And, people love all these things that come from mining, but they don't realize to turn anything on, this electric modern world we have needs a lot of copper. And the copper supply chain is ill prepared for this demand, that's these demand waves that are coming one after another after another. You look at the discoveries, they've fallen off a cliff in the last 25 years. We're depending on old mines that are getting deeper into their systems they got to move more rock to get the same amount of copper out at a lower grade. The supply chain is very broken, and there's not enough new developers out there to fix that problem. Yet you've got all these big waves of demand, and so I believe copper $6 is kind of meaningless to me, actually. I think that we need to see copper over $10 per pound and stay above there to incentivize exploration and new mine development. And even that is going to fall short of being able to to supply all these waves of demand. So I focus primarily on gold, silver, and copper because of the fundamentals that I've talked about. But even you look at platinum, another fantastic metal that's broken out from a long base. Palladium, if you love cup and handle formations, this is a tremendously bullish one. Here you've got the left side of the cup, the bottom of the cup, and now it's rose above the right side of the cup. Now, when I look at cup and handles, when they go up the right side, they're sort of stall at the peak of the left side of the cup. And then after that, it takes some choppy action, which is the handle. And sometimes that handle can actually be slight biased downward, not dramatically, but the handle is kind of tilted down. But when I see the right side of the handle significantly above the left side, that usually means that the handle is going to be short-lived and then onwards and upwards from there. That's exactly what I'm seeing in the chart of palladium. And so I'm very bullish on palladium and well, but I wanted to bring these charts up because it's for and generalist investors and even investors in the metal stocks. I don't think they really recognize that we are at the earliest days of a metals bull market, not just a gold bull market, but a metals bull market. The 2001 to 2011 was the greatest one ever, metals bull market, that is, and gold for that matter. And I think that the fundamentals, what drove that is even better this time, and the supply demand equation is even better. So I think that this new metals bull market that's getting started in real time, folks, I'm covering the start of this in real time in my shows. And I think we've got a long future ahead of us. I'm not going to go too far into the future. I think it's more important for people to focus on we're at the start of something special. And that's going to be very bullish for the metals and the stocks like the majors, the mid tiers, the junior miners, the developers, the explorers with important discoveries and the explorers that have the potential to make important discoveries. And that's what I do in my reports. I try to present to you, the audience, based on my 32 years of experience, having been mentored by fantastic geologists, geochemists, geophysicists, and 20 plus years as a market commentator. I've learned a few tricks along the way there as well. And yeah, that's what bases my outlook. But my outlook is that I see the gold is on a long-term trend, which is related to the when the U.S. went off the gold standard, and pretty much the rest of the world did as well. That was in 1971. And in the subsequent 50 years, it took about 50 years for them to completely destroy the purchasing power of the fiat currencies and get themselves in so much debt that it's a death spiral of debt. And these two things are forcing the world back onto a gold standard. And when it comes to gold, I emphasize to people like I see a lot of nervous Nellies out there that think, oh, well, gold has moved up a lot, and should I be worried? Should I be selling? And I think that they're looking at it totally incorrectly. I don't think that they're understanding what has driven gold up and what will drive it up into the future. And basically, what it'll drive it up into the future is the world returning to the gold standard. Okay. And right now, gold only represents about 2% of the debt that the United States and other countries, less than 2%. And I think they should be up at 10, 20, 30, 40% of their debt should be backed up with real money, which is gold, not this paper fiat currency that they print like it's going out of style and devastate the purchasing power and then without any controls on them with the gold standard, they just print debt like debt and fiat currency is going out of style, and it is out of style actually. And I think that's very good for the gold price and the gold miners. And I think that I wrote in 2024 that I think we're going to see within 10 years of 2024 that gold gets up to $20,000 per ounce. You can go and look at that. It's in the headlines of some of my past reports in 2024. But that's, why I'm so bullish on gold. But I also touched on the reasons earlier why I'm so bullish on silver and copper. And then I also added in talking about platinum and palladium because I see that they are the indication that investors, generalist investors, are starting to see the value proposition in the metals, and we're starting to see we're at the very beginning of a metals bull market, and I think it's got a foundation to last 10 or 20 years into the future, and maybe even longer than that. In the past, mining was an important part of the mix of the economy. It still is, but it's not recognized as such. And because it hasn't been recognized as such, it hasn't got the appropriate investment. And now all of these metals are having serious supply issues as demand is going up and up and up. And so, yeah, I think that as Robert Friedland calls it, it calls it the revenge of the miners. And I agree with Robert Friedland. That's a great way to express it because when he says that, it means that, we've been underloved, underappreciated. People don't understand how important mining is to their daily lives. And it's blindness due to apathy. They don't just look at everything in your life, your car, your house, your electrical devices, your phone, your cell phone, your computer, your lights. Everything revolves around mining. If you don't have mining, you go back to the Stone Ages. But we don't get the miners are kind of like thought of as the old. Well, you can't have the new without the old. To have the new stuff, you need the miners, okay? But they've been underappreciated, and I'll go back to what I started this show on. I showed you just how overvalued and overappreciated something like a Tesla is, compared to something like a Newmont, based on what they're making free cash flow and their valuations relative to that free cash flow. So, yeah, it's exciting times to be in the mining metals bull, and it's exciting times to be a bull on metal stocks, and that's what I am, and that's what I do, and yeah, I covered everything I want in this show. So have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.